It's Kenny Burns, Celtic Fans TV. Like everyone else, welcome. It's great to see a fresh impetus going into this season. First question for Ange. Ange, we do have one of your countrymen here in Tom Rogic. Tom was a really integral player for Celtic 2-3 years ago. He's found his game time a bit limited for various reasons over the last couple of years. Can you tell us a bit about your relationship with him, how you see him as a player, and do you have a confidence that you can revitalise him back to the levels that he was a couple of years ago?
Yeah, no, obviously I know Tommy very well, and I had him in the national team when I was national team manager, and extremely talented player. He's one of those players who I think people are happy to pay to watch because he can turn some ordinary moments into something special. My understanding is he's had some problems, particularly with his body over the last period, and I think that's probably been his biggest challenge. Even when I had him in the national team, was consistently trying to get him to a certain level from his body point of view. I haven't had a good chat to him yet, so I'll certainly be doing that with him and the rest of the players. And does he fit into the style of football I want to play? Absolutely. But Tommy knows me better than anyone in that dressing room right now, and he knows that I treat everyone the same. I set us off in a certain direction, and the ones who want to be a part of that are part of that, and the ones who maybe can't be or don't want to be, then will fall by the wayside. But he's certainly someone who I'm looking forward to working with again. I'm hoping we can get him fit and playing the football that I know he's shown here at different times. And I know he can show in my style of football because he's already done it with the national team.
Thank you. To Dom, you arrive here whereby we've been in a cycle recently of selling our best players in recent years. And I think to a certain extent the fans accept that within the confines of Scottish football that's something that has to happen. But even within Scotland, some clubs have managed to avoid that recently by courting external investment, considering share issues. Is that something that we as a club, you as a CEO, are going to look to potentially bring in going forward to fund the rebuild and break this cycle that's stunting our growth of selling our best players?
Well, I think the key thing for us is to assemble the best possible squad and players and coaching team that we can to bring success. How we go about doing that, there'll be lots of different ways that we could potentially do that. Finance is one element of that. Also, we spoke with Brian earlier on about the importance of investing in the academy. I guess one of the challenges, if I go back to my old experience in rugby, we worked really hard there to grow our revenues. We doubled our revenues actually over a 5-year period. So I think there's huge potential left still in the tank at Celtic to grow our revenues, both domestically and particularly internationally. And having chaired an international league, I'm quite interested to get to know a little bit more about the operations of the SPFL and the SFA and see if they're adding sufficient value into the club. So when we spoke earlier on about looking under various rocks, I'm going to make sure we look under rocks to make sure we've got the right funds, the right investment, the right support to give Ange and ourselves the best chance of that sustained success.
Okay, thank you.
Hi Dom, hi Ange, how you doing? First question for Dom. Last season was a disaster for a lot of reasons. One of the big issues was communication, such as the kind of January review that led to a lot of protests, exclusives being leaked to the Sun newspaper, which is not in common with Celtic. Going forward, how do you make sure the communication coming out of the club is a lot better and a lot more kind of fan-led, essentially?
Well, thanks for the question, and thanks for coming in today. Today's a good example of that. As maybe mentioned, keen to try and have that engagement on a regular basis. In fact, we've spoken to the broadcasters up first, but then we came straight to see you all before we even go and do the dailies and the Sunday's newspapers. And that hopefully gives a bit of an indication of our level of respect for you all. But importantly, this is a club, it's really a big family. And I think the best way for us to make sure that we're all pushing in the same direction is to make sure we know what each other think. So engagement's two-way for me. It can't just be about us saying, it also needs to be about us listening as well. So over the next number of months and years, we want to develop that. What's really interesting is that the media environment that we all operate, that you operate in, is completely changing before our eyes. And I think that's something that clubs like Celtic and other clubs and other sports organisations need to be ready to adapt their plans to change along with that changing environment. I spent a lot of time in North American sport learning about what happens behind the scenes there, and fan media is a very effective part of sporting franchises. So I think there's some lessons for us to learn from other parts of the world, but I'm keen to make sure that engagement's as meaningful as it possibly can be.
Thanks very much and best of luck. Question for Ange. As much as people spoke about a lot of big changes in the club, one of the biggest was our captain has left to join Aberdeen, Scott Brown. He was a massive part of the team and the squad and the club as a whole for 14 years. In terms of yourself, do you plan on bringing in a captain, or is the current captain in this squad, and what would you look for in a captain?
Yeah, as you say, Scott has had an unbelievable career, and my understanding, I mean, I had an external view, but being in the club now, just what a massive influence he was, both on and off the park. A tremendous person and character, and always looked after the interests of the football club. So, but I guess everyone's journey comes to some sort of end, and he's looking at the next chapter of his career. That provides, I guess, opportunity now, and that can come from within, because I've always felt when people like a Scott Brown leave a club, then there's a vacuum, but maybe that also is an opportunity for somebody else to step up who may at different times have felt not comfortable being in that role. I think there's some people within the club that I think show some leadership qualities. But again, I'll take my time making that decision. I want to see, because obviously the environment's going to be different now. As a different manager, we're going to do things differently. As I said, I'm pretty strong on certain values and certain ways of doing things. So, I'll find the person who fits those values, and if that's in the football club, and I hope it is, because, again, I've always felt that, people within a football club who spend the time have a stronger attachment, understand the club better than bringing in somebody externally. If that person exists there, I'll identify it, and because it is an important role, make him the leader of our football club.
Magic, thanks very much. Best of luck. Cheers.
Thank you.
Hi guys, James Forrest, the Celtic blog. First question to Ange. A lot of us believe that there was a general fall in standards in terms of training and coaching in the last 2 years. I think most of us would like to know that you're committed to sports science, to analytics, and to all like the, modern modes of thinking and coaching. And we've also lost a lot of youth players. A lot of really, really promising talent has left our academy and gone abroad or wherever. And I'm thinking that one of the reasons why the board likes you so much in terms of your coaching background is that you've worked with youth players and you've helped develop them and far better players, and hopefully you can help us arrest the outward movement of our youth stars.
Most definitely. The one challenge I've had, sort of being on the other side of the world, where to be fair, people don't rate the football that great, but I always try to get an edge any way I could. So when I was coaching the Australian national team and we were at a World Cup and we were playing against the Netherlands, and they've got Van Persie and Robben up front, and we've got players who are playing at that level. Where could we get our edge? Our edge was in sports science. Our edge was in analytics. And it's not my domain. It's not my expertise. I struggle with Zoom. That's as bad as I get. So I came through an education system with a pen and paper. But I've been smart enough along the way to know that if I get the best people around me in those areas, it definitely gives you an edge. And it's where sport's going in general. I think it's where life's going in general. That's going to be a massive part. So when sort of people talk to me about the staff changes, and they tend to focus on the coaching aspect, which I understand, but the coaching aspect I'm totally comfortable with. I've been doing it for 25 years. I know that space. For me, I want to look at the other areas of the club in terms of the football department, those areas that you've mentioned, and make sure we're absolutely best practice. That's where I want us to have an edge over everyone else, because if you have even a 1% advantage over your opponent before the game starts because of your preparation, the information you're given, the way you've prepared your players, then it gives you a better chance of success. So it's definitely going to be a huge part of what I'm trying to build in the club. And in terms of young players, I've already said that I just think it's so important that You know, one, we were able to identify the best young talent. Two, to give them the opportunity, and three, to keep them at our football club. It's the best possible story if you can grab a kid off the terrace who's 8 or 9 years old with a Celtic scarf and see him run out here as a senior player one day, because that means everybody in that stadium knows his journey. So it's a massive part of, again, you know, what I'll be focusing on.